Attention. Due to the nature of the films discussed, the Civil Gore podcast may contain adult language and themes.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 124 of the Civil Gore podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
And this is Brian. And, you know, it's only actually been a week since we last recorded something. And when I say something, we'll explain that in our first chop, what happened. But it was weird. It seems like it's been a while. I think because I know Tim has been bogged down in work. I've been bogged down just in stuff with holiday prep as well. And it's just, it's amazing. It's like, I'm actually, like, as much as we love doing this, I kind of looking forward to our little break after next week.
Yeah, it's been crazy before the holidays with work. I've been doing, like, the past 2 or 3 days, I've done 12-hour days for this Go Live thing we're doing at work. And it's just a big project. I got pulled in at the last minute, so it was unexpected, which means all my other stuff got put on hold. So, yeah, it's been one of those things there where holidays on top of work stress is not good when you're trying to do a podcast.
No, and it's and it just like I know I got my brother and my niece and nephew coming in. They're coming in next week, and we had Conesgiving, which again I'll get to in the first chop, and just in general trying to just keep up with normal things and trying to fit in. I mean, the good thing is I'm ahead. Tim is still one movie behind. I've already got Anna and the Apocalypse down, which I can't wait to talk about next episode. But I realized I had a couple hours, so Julie and I watched it the other night. I'm like, I gotta get ahead because I'm just not gonna have time to watch any of this stuff.
I know. I'm already behind on Christmas. Although I'm hoping we will get all caught up this weekend because we are just like devoting this weekend to Christmas shopping. So
nice.
Getting all our Amazon orders in and all that kind of good stuff. And so I guess we should get right into it, Brian.
Yes.
Let's kick off something we forgot to do last episode. I forgot to even we just went right on into talking.
Yeah, we did like the cold opening from Costa Radio. We went right in.
Yeah, but we're going to do it officially, correctly this time.
Yes.
This is our first chop. All right, so the first thing we have to do is we owe an apology, a huge apology. Yes. To our interviewee last episode that you never heard because we did not get the audio. That was Ghost Girl Greetings. We had a fantastic interview with them. We did it over Skype just like we always do. We've done a dozen of these interviews. Yeah. Never had an issue. For some reason, and I don't know why, Skype failed to save the audio inside the Skype recording session. And we verified it was recording.
Yeah,
we did everything by the book. Both of us were looking at it recording. For some reason, it never saved the file when we closed, and we lost it all. And we were so sorry because it was such a good interview, and they were so gracious to take the time out of their busy schedules to do that interview.
And this is busy for them because that was one of the things we had discussed. I mean, they just get bombarded with stuff at this time of year, and they do cons, and they, of course, obviously, everyone's going to be getting cards and gifts from them. So yeah, Tony and Lori were just amazing, and we had such a great interview. We're going to get them on again because this, hopefully we'll capture the same magic that this interview had because this was a great interview. We learned so many things about their process on how they came up with stuff and how they just and it's like it was so fascinating to hear because their creations are so amazing. And we've always said that's one of the things we love best about going to these cons is to see what the people in horror community come up with creatively because it's not just websites and podcasts and YouTube videos. There's so much creative content of that we just saw at different conventions, and they were one of the highlights, and we were so excited to finally have them on. And it's like I was like sick to my stomach.
Yeah, that's the first time we've had little glitches here and there, but that's the first time we've just completely lost audio for an interview. I was dumbfounded. I spent like 2 hours that night researching and trying to figure out something, but alas, it was not to be. But what I wanted to do this episode was urge you guys to go out to ghostgirlgreetings.com, look at their stuff, buy their stuff. They are awesome. Their artwork is awesome. Their ideas are incredible. I've literally loved every single card I've seen on their site. So
yeah,
please give them your business this holiday season and make up for our terrible
And the best is they don't have just stuff for the holidays. They literally have it for all year round, so you can constantly find stuff throughout the year to get. I mean, I know this is, tends to be, Christmas cards and holiday cards and stuff, but they have, I mean, for every occasion and every kind of even just just the basic thing of like their Amityville card that says like "Home Sweet Home," for like a new house or something for someone. I mean, think about it. They literally cover everything, and they're so great. And so so we can't say enough nice things about them.
And they also have prints. If you're not looking for cards, they have prints. So if you want something that just something to hang around the house or give to somebody like a piece of nice artwork, you can do that too. So
give them a shout. At least check their site out and go through it. And definitely, they were so worthy of your business because they are just so talented. So.
All right, Brian, you got a chance to play Horrified with Cone for Conesgiving.
Yes.
Which sounds like an epic time. I would love to go to Conesgiving one day.
Yes, you will, and I'm sure you were welcome. And Cone, because we usually, it used to be where our friend Dom would also come over and he'd take a big turkey smoker thing or fryer, and we'd fry up a turkey, but we couldn't do this year. But Nicole, Steve's wife, made an amazing turkey. She had it like packed with some like butter and citrus in there. It was really, really good. And all the Cone kids chipped in. Sophia, who's is a huge horror fan, as we've mentioned before, and Steve's mentioned it. She was cooking the cranberry sauce, and I think she helped with the pie, and then we of course brought some. I brought some desserts and my famous deviled eggs. But yeah, we had a great time just eating and having some beers, and then of course we wanted to play Horrified because Cone bought that. And it was me, Julie, Cone, Xander, and Isabel had played. Sophia was off, I think, playing with the cats. But so we played, and Nick was actually still finalizing the meal, and so we played a quick game before we ate, actually. And so one of the reasons why I wanted to bring it up, by the way, just to let you know, we played the easy where we had the creature and Dracula, and we were victorious.
Nice.
I mean, it was 5 of us, of course, so it's a little easier, but it was getting dicey because we had about 5 villagers on the board, and for a while we just seemed to not be able to accomplish anything correctly. But then it mattered. We ended up having some magical perks. But what brings me up is we almost like called you literally in the middle of this because we don't know if it's a loophole or Xander may have found just a great sneaky way to do this, but we don't know if this was legit. So he had a perk card that basically gave him an additional 4 moves to make. 4 moves, but I think it had to be moves. Like literally, you had to move.
Yeah.
You couldn't use it. It wasn't an action. It was a move. So, but what he did is on his turn. Here's what he did. So, and this played into like helping us. What he did is he moved. So I guess his character had 3 moves or 4 moves too, like the regular thing.
Yeah.
So he took 2 actions on his card, then used his perk to move 4 spaces, and then went back and finished his turn on the card. And we could not find it in the rules saying you can't do that.
You can do that.
Oh, you
That's
can.
perfectly
okay.
legal. Yeah.
Okay, then he was way more astute to what he could do then. You never know who else could be listening and have faced that dilemma, and I figured Tim would know, and we'd discuss it, and this is exciting that it turns out we did it, and we have a legit win then.
Yeah, you can use it any time on a player's turn. There's no specification. So yeah, you did right. You did good.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, we had some pretty good strategic moves towards the end of the game, and everyone so got into it. So I guess it's the same, right? It mimics that game Pandemic, right?
Yes, it's a slightly more simplified version of Pandemic, I would say.
Oh, okay. Because so supposedly Steve and Isabel play Pandemic a lot. So Isabel was really on point with this game, and there was so it was basically where we ended up, I think in 1 round or 2 rounds, got all 4 of Dracula's coffin smashed based on the strategic maneuvers.
Yeah, Pandemic's a little more complex. So if you're good at Pandemic, this game will be a breeze.
Yeah, okay, so that makes sense. Yeah, because Isabel was on point. That game is so fun because, you don't even think about it sometimes, but such a strategically placed perk changes the game. And once that happened, it was like the game was over in like 2 rounds. It was like boom, 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 and everything. Like we jumped ahead. Like someone, I think someone had 5 moves. I think Julie played as we kept calling her Pip, like they did on Geek and Sundry. They were calling the little kid Pip. So Julie had him, and I think he had what did he have? 5 moves, and I had the one, that one Explorer, the one that can jump to any space. So it was like we had a good bunch of characters on top of it. So, but yeah, it really is such a fun game. I was bummed we only got to play 1 game of that, but it was definitely a good time, and I'm glad now to know that we actually got a legit win. So thank you, Tim, for your Judge Tim. I guess if there's Judge EB on Coastal Radio, we could have Judge Tim on Civil Gore. So, nice.
So next up, I did the unthinkable. I had to rent and watch Child's Play from 2019. So let me preface this by saying, you guys that have been listening to the podcast for a while know that me and Brian did not have the highest praise for this remake or reboot or whatever you want to call it. And we've been very critical of even the idea of doing it. Yeah. So I do want to tell you, and I'm honest with you on this podcast, I did go into this movie with an open mind. I did not go in expecting to hate it. I went in with a very open mind. I tried to keep in my mind, what if you had never seen Child's Play before? What if you had never seen you didn't know who Chucky was?
Right.
And you just were watching this movie. Is it a good movie? And I tried to keep all of my personal biases out of my review. So here's what I thought. It's not a bad movie, but it's not a good movie. It's not terrible in the sense that it's completely unwatchable. But here's my problem with it. And hang on a second, Brian. I got to get my soapbox. Sorry. Drag it over here.
Get your soapbox.
All right. Okay. So, Child's Play. All right. Number 1, my problem with this movie is the doll. The doll looks absolutely stupid. And I don't mean that because I don't like the movie. I mean, it just looks dumb. The first time I saw the doll, it looked dumb. And the reason why is not because it doesn't look like Chucky. That's fine. But in real life, this doll would never get approved to be on toy shelves. It just looks ridiculous. It's oversized head. It doesn't look aesthetically pleasing at all. And if you remember in Child's Play, the original My Buddy doll looks like it could potentially be on a toy shelf. It's not really creepy before he turns into Chucky, obviously, before he gets the facial expressions. But the normal My Buddy doll does not look that scary. And in this one, this doll looks terrifying even before it starts talking. And I understand they can't make it look like the actual Chucky, but why couldn't you have done anything even remotely better than this? It looks ridiculous. And that took me out of the movie. Okay, here's my second problem. And beware, there's some minor spoilers here. I'm not giving you direct spoilers, but some minor things about how this differs from the original Child's Play.
Yeah, don't worry, because when I see it, I'll probably be watching it just on streaming free.
So,
anyway,
obviously, in this version, Chucky is AI. It's not because of a spirit of a man that's gone into the doll. So you take the whole voodoo aspect out of this thing. This is an AI gone rogue. And because of that, there's no reason for him to be called Chucky, right? Because in the original Child's Play,
that's right.
He was called Chucky
on me.
Because Charles Lee Ray was the one that was inside of the doll, and his nickname was Chucky, so that's why he became Chucky. So in this movie, the doll is like, "What's my name?" And the child goes, the kid's like, And he goes, "What about Chucky?" And I'm like, really? You just had the doll name himself Chucky for no reason whatsoever?
That would annoy me. Right off the bat, that would take me out of the movie.
Which is parable for the movie. Like, why? Like, why did you make this movie? You're admitting there's no reason for this movie to exist because there's no reason for the doll to name himself Chucky other than to copy child's play. I mean, you know what I mean? You know, I might not be wording that right, but
yeah, no, and that's again why I don't understand. I get that you want to make a killer doll movie, but why couldn't you just make it not look like Chucky? Don't call it Child's Play, and let everyone say, "Oh, it's a because wait." Then at least you'll get people to see it before they say, "Oh, it was trying to be like Child's Play." But at least then, you could say, "Well, it was okay, so it was an homage to it." But no, calling it Child's Play is automatically going to make the initial comparison right away. Same reason why, like now, Blumhouse's Black Christmas looks. I kind of like the idea of it. Okay, they fight back, the whole whatnot. Why call it Black Christmas? Why? I was saying this to somebody, I think it was Steve Cohn. I was like, all you have to do is write new from Blumhouse and people slapping their money down. Yeah. So why have to take a moniker or use moniker?
In this instance, I kind of see it because I think it was a licensing thing, and they wanted to keep that original Child's Play license or whatever it was they had for the first movie. I understand that piece of it, but the fact that you don't even pretend to come up with a reason that this doll is named Chucky. So here's the other problem. Now you have to change Chucky's motive, because other than him being an evil AI, there's really no reason for him to be evil towards his owner. So now you have this whole thing where he's protective of Andy to the point that he'll murder anybody that gets in his way. Whereas in the original Child's Play,
interesting,
he was after Andy because he wanted to take over Andy's body. So the child was in danger, and that's a problem with this movie because I never felt like the kid was in any real danger. People around him were, but Andy never was in any real danger.
Well, I should say that's at least a kind of a cool twist, I guess, if it wasn't mired in all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Like that, okay, instead of now him just going after everybody, he's going to just go after people, like, in a psychotic manner who he thinks wronged his owner. That's fine. That's okay if that's your plot point. Again, though, why name him Chucky? I mean, could have named him anything
Here's the part that really grinded my gears.
Oh, boy.
And it's because it felt, and I know I'm taking this the wrong way, it felt like a slap in the face to horror fans. To me, I took it personally.
Uh-oh.
And I'm going to give away a pivotal scene in the movie, so cover your ears if you don't want to hear this. But when Chucky first becomes sentient, let's say, he's not really evil. He's basically just a little smarter than the average doll, right?
Okay. There
is a sequence where Andy and his friends are over watching horror movies, in particular, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. And when Chucky sees the murder on screen, that's when he gets the idea, hey, I can start stabbing people.
Oh, for God's sake.
So, not only are you throwing in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which is a beloved cult favorite among horror fans, and you're daring to even put that in this movie, for one thing. Like, don't cater to me as a horror fan when just by the movie even being here is a slap in my face. And then you're basically correlating that watching horror movies equates to you being a psychopath or wanting to commit murder. I mean, that's kind of what you're telling me.
Yeah. You know what? If they wanted to do that, okay, now hear me out. I don't because this is what I think. They wanted to take that kind of angle that something he saw influenced him to go to violence. It maybe really do it a little bit more original, have him see just a regular movie, not a horror movie, where someone is getting picked on, and then he sees Andy get picked on. And he puts the two together there like that. You want to go there, fine, but you're right. It's like for horror fans, which is your only audience you're going to possibly get for this.
Yeah.
You're going to get, it's a slap in the face. I agree. And think about it. The audience is probably split for this. It's probably people that don't, the younger group that doesn't really know the history of the other Child Play. They just, there was this old movie Child's Play, and they probably don't understand other than it was a doll. I get it. So that's half your audience. And the other half is you, me, all the other horror fans that want to kind of say, all right, let me check this thing out, kind of a thing. But you're going in already with a little bit of a heaviness, no matter how much you try and pretend you've never seen the original. It's there, but you can try your best. Like with any remake, that's usually the philosophy I try and go in with.
Yeah.
But yeah, then to do something like that, it's like you're almost like putting the haters with stuff on a silver platter to them and saying, "Here you go."
Yeah, and I want to say, yeah, even though I'm kind of ranting about the movie now, I didn't go into the movie with these attitudes. I only got this attitude after watching the movie, so that's just to clear the air there.
Yeah.
But I don't want to leave on a negative note, so I will tell you the things that were good. Obviously, Mark Hamill does a phenomenal job doing the voice, even though it does sound a little jokery at times. That's okay. I mean, he does a phenomenal voice. It was great. No problems with that. And even though most of the kills tended to be, this is fairly tame for a R-rated film. I mean, there is some blood and stuff, but a lot of the kills are pretty much off screen. So I can't say that there was a lot of cool kills, but I will say there were a couple of sequences that I thought were amusing in terms of the kills and stuff. But yeah, to me, the movie just felt completely unnecessary. That's the best way I could describe this movie. We kind of knew that going in. It probably would be that way. I was hoping it wouldn't be. I was hoping it would bring enough new to the table that I would say, you know what? It wasn't as bad as I thought. It's not great, but it wasn't as bad as I thought. Instead, I came out of it going, why the hell did they make this movie? And that's my soapbox. I'm putting my soapbox up. Again, I didn't want to leave on a negative note. Is it worth watching? For curiosity's sake, go watch it just to say you did it. Yeah. But go get it at Redbox so you only have to spend $1 like I did.
or wait till it's streaming.
Or wait till it's streaming or do something. But yeah, completely unnecessary movie. And I really do wish it had been better. I wanted it to be good.
Well, you know what? I could actually give you something that would have made it worse. Imagine the movie that inspired him to kill was the original Child's Play. That talk about a real slap in the face. That would have been a punch in the face and a kick in the gut simultaneously.
But anyway, so on to our last little item of the first chop. We do have a New Jersey HorrorCon update. The fantastic, the amazing Danielle Harris.
Yes, she will be there, and I'm dying to meet her from all the times that she's been at cons, and I've either not been able to go, or it was a con that I knew I wasn't going to get to go to, so I was really hoping that one day I would get to be at one of the cons she's at, and she's been announced, so that'll be cool. And that's already got a great show. It's got like everyone from Terrifier almost already there, so it's got a couple of Leatherfaces, and this is early on. They, usually I think it was last year. What was it like? Last week of December, first week of January, right? When we started to see all the guests start ramping up.
Yeah, they get finalized really late.
Yeah, and, so it'll be cool. So
Raleigh SuperCon's shaping up to be pretty good this year. And Dee Wallace is going to be there.
Lovely Dee Wallace.
Henry Thomas, so there's going to be a little bit of an E.T. reunion there.
Oh my God! What a great! They had a good photo op with those two. How great would that be?
Yeah, I think they actually are, because they're touting an ET team up. So I would not be surprised if there's going to be a really good photo.
Imagine they got Drew Barrymore to appear.
Oh my gosh, that would be awesome.
I think that would be a must.
Some of the lesser known guests on here right now, but I know Raleigh SuperCon really, really ramps up right closer to the event, and I think it's not until like maybe end of July. So they got plenty of time to announce like their big guests. So, Kevin went last year. He had a blast. So I definitely want to go this year. It's only an hour and a half away from me, so I can't afford to miss it this year.
Yeah, Nick. Oh, you know what you should announce? It's not on the rundown. Probably it's just an oversight on my part for not putting it there. I think I had the intention to put it on there, but we had actually we had two, but one more than the other affecting our podcast. Of course, it was a very huge trailer that dropped over the weekend, or actually Monday, technically, to be exact.
Oh, yes.
And that was the Ghostbusters Afterlife teaser, which if you did not get chills watching that teaser, or a trailer, I guess a full trailer, oh my God, I was like, I'm so giddy. I mean, it's bad enough that I'm like trying to contain because we're like just over a week away from Rise of Skywalker. And then I'm like, when all the glow from that dies down, I'll be totally in like full on like Wonder Woman, Ghostbusters mode, and then Halloween. Yeah. I mean, we got a good next year already planned. So
yeah, and I just bought my Star Wars tickets for opening night, premiere, first showing. So,
wow,
yeah,
look, it's so funny. You you could get it so calmly there. It's like me. I was like frantically like I had like 8 devices open, getting simultaneously tickets on like that like 2 months ago. I feel like it was, but I got and it's terrible. I literally have right now. If unless something happens and I can't do something, I basically have 5 shows from Thursday through Sunday.
Oh my
I'm going
gosh.
to see. It's like I have 1 on Thursday night. Oh, I'm sorry. 6. I have 1 Thursday night, the opening night. Then I have 3 on Friday, 1 on Saturday night, and 1 on Sunday night. So, yeah, I have 6 shows in the first weekend.
Jeez. Yeah, my coworker was like, hey, you going to go buy those Star Wars tickets? Just a reminder. And I was like, I'll get around to it. And then I forgot for like 2 weeks. And then the other day he texted me and was like, did you ever get those Star Wars tickets? I was like, oh, no, I forgot. And then I got caught up in these work stuff. Finally tonight I was like, I bet you the Star Wars tickets are gone. I logged on, bought them right away. Like this theater, I'm telling you, this town, this particular theater I go to is not the big theater. So I bet you I could wait. I could have waited. I don't know. I might not have waited too late, but too much later, I've probably been pushing it. But yeah, within a week, you could pretty much guarantee no problem. No problem.
Yeah, and pretty much if you've been following every day on Star Wars, their Twitter account, they're basically posting like a new like 30-second spot, but a lot of it's the same stuff, but every so often they have like a little like second or 2 of something new. And there was a big one the other day. I don't know if you saw with the reveal of a certain villain. For about a split second you were being able to see him.
Oh, I did not see that, so I'll go back and watch that.
Take a look. Just go on their Twitter account and scroll down. You'll see like there's like so many of those little spots. But apparently the soundtrack leaked today. It came out and then was pulled down instantly, which I'm glad, because I don't want to see, because it kind of ruined a point, a plot point in Phantom Menace when I saw that. Yeah. And I already know one track that they announced a while ago that kind of leaked out. That's spoilerish a little bit. I don't think it's going to be as spoiler the way as verbatim the way it was, but still. But yeah, so that's and I know we're going to be off when that drops, the movie drops, but maybe I'll do like maybe we could do like little video review of it for those who care.
Yeah,
or something, something basic. Just pop it up on YouTube and our little review of it. Nothing big, because we do want our break. But I'm sure when I come home, I'll be so amped, filled with adrenaline, that I'll have the energy to maybe record a little like video. But I'll keep it, spoiler free for those who aren't obsessive like me and have to see it the second it comes out. So,
all right, guys. Well, let's get to our Blu-ray releases for the week of December 17th, 2019. This is our Discmemberment.
Wait, no, please, God, no, don't cut off my...
All right, Brian. So not a bad little week. It's not heavy, but it's not too light. And we got some really, really good disc on here. I would say there's 2 on here that are potential picks of the week for me.
Well, mine is listed first, so if you want to save that,
and I think I'll take the other one then. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll save that. We'll save Brian's pick of the week, because I think that would be mine traditionally too. But we're going to give you 2 picks of the week, since it's Christmas time and you need stuff on the wish list. So first up, from RLJ Entertainment, we have Trick. This is from 2019. A no-nonsense detective tries to track down a mass murderer named Trick, who is terrorizing a small town. And
a lot of alliteration there. Trick.
Yeah. This one has just a making of Trick, featuring interviews with the cast and crew. I watched the trailer for this one, Brian. Very indie. It does have a cool feel to it, though. A lot of Halloween masks. The villain looks kind of cool. Very, very Halloween atmosphere vibe to this one. I don't know anything about this movie. I don't know how good it is, but I was intrigued by the strong Halloween spirit present in the trailer. So
I like that. We do love our authentic Halloween feels.
Yeah, so I kind of like that. I like the use of the mask in the trailer. Next up, we have an oldie, 1932. This is from Shout Factory, Murders in the Rue Morgue from 1932.
Is this what the magazine Rue Morgue was based off of, I wonder?
Yeah, this is based off the old Post. Well, based off the old Post story. This is an original short story, Murders in the Rue Morgue, which is credited as being one of the first detective tales.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Edgar Allan Poe. We had to read this in school eons ago, and it's a fantastic story.
Yeah, we read Poe, but I think ours was The Raven. We read.
Yeah,
we did.
Yeah. This is a great movie. This is basically the story that without this story, there probably would have never been any Sherlock Holmes, any of that stuff. So it's about a mad now. Don't listen to the movie and think that's what the story is about, because it's completely different. A mad scientist seeks to mingle human blood with that of an ape and resorts to kidnapping women for his experiments. So this one has the great Bela Lugosi.
Oh, okay.
In a role, he looks very Dracula-ish in this one, but it's got a trailer on YouTube, which is a modern trailer. Obviously, they didn't make trailers in 1932. Well, maybe they did, but they didn't post them on YouTube. I can't say that for a fact.
Yeah, we know for sure that never happened.
They have a new audio commentary by author, film historian Gregory William Mank.
That's a new one.
That's a new one.
We've encountered him before.
And another new audio commentary by author and film historian Gary D. Rhodes.
I guess the other ones were so busy. Oh God, I heard that. Sorry, I overtalked you on a good pun too.
I'll say it again.
Okay.
I bet he was a Rhodes Scholar.
Yeah.
All right, this one's got a theatrical trailer and also a still gallery. I think that would be worth it for the two commentaries alone. That's
yeah. I mean, and plus you usually can't go wrong with Shout Factory.
No. Speaking of Shout Factory, I'm going to just jump over a little bit, Brian, and talk about their other disc this week. To the Devil, a Daughter from 1976. This is based on a Dennis Wheatley novel by the same name. An American occult novelist battles to save the soul of a young girl from a group of Satanists led by an excommunicated priest who plan on using her as the representative of the devil on Earth. And this one, Brian, gave me a lot of vibes of like Rosemary's Baby, The Omen.
Okay. Just the title. It sounds like it.
Yeah, and in fact, in the trailer, you'll see it has like, first there was Rosemary's Baby.
Oh, okay.
There was The Exorcist. So they definitely were trying to capitalize off the success of those films, but it does have a very similar feel. I really want to see this one because it looks like it may, I don't know how good it is because I've never seen the film, but it looks like it has that same tone and vibe. And of course, it's in my sweet spot, 1976. Yeah. So I really kind of want to check this one out. This one has a new audio commentary with author, film historian Steve Haberman.
Oh, yeah, they're back.
And filmmaker, film historian Constantine Nazer. So
now we know why they need to hire two new ones, because the usuals were busy with this movie.
Can you imagine, though, how awesome that would be? Like, your job is to do audio commentaries for these old movies?
Yeah.
It's so cool.
That's pretty much what we do, except we don't get paid or any notoriety for it.
That's right. And nobody wants to hear us talk for 2 hours over a freaking movie.
Exactly.
Dark Arts, Inside to the Devil, a Daughter. I completely read that with the emphasis on the wrong syllable. Dark Arts, Inside to the Devil, a Daughter. I can't say it.
I don't think this one's gonna ever.
It's a featurette. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah, that'll be good.
To the Devil, The Death of Hammer.
Oh. Is that Hammer horror they're talking about? Yeah,
I think so, yeah. And theatrical trailers. This may be one of the later entries in the Hammer horror golden years, maybe.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, 76.
76 is getting pretty late. I mean, Hammer still makes films. It's just that was the golden age. Next up, we have Famine from 2011. We're gonna let Brian guess this one. What is Famine about? This is from Unearthed Films. And Brian, hang on a second. I want to pull up the old summary here because I want to make sure I'm completely accurate in this. And if you want, I will give you a couple little hints as like actors, director, that kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe give me that, because I mean, obviously there's an obvious guess I would make, but maybe that'll change and be more entertaining if that had a hint.
All right, so directed by Ryan Nicholson.
Okay.
You may know Ryan Nicholson from the makeup department of Grave Encounters 2.
Okay.
And
I know the first movie, The Grave Encounters, but
I'm saying that as a joke, but the dude has done a ginormous amount of films. So,
I saw Grave Encounters, the first one, so yeah. But...
Yeah, this guy is killing it in the makeup department. His IMDb page looks insane. I had to keep scrolling. He does have 16 director credits.
Okay.
He has done Star Vehicle, Gutter Balls, Live Feed, Dead Nude Girls, Gutterballs 2, Balls Deep.
We have to do that movie.
And one in post-production called Cannibal Lipstick. All right. It was written by Ryan Nicholson and his buddy Jeff O'Brien. And it stars Beth Cantor, Christopher Patrick Donahue, and Nathan Durek.
Okay, yeah, none of that helped me. So
I knew it wouldn't.
Yeah. All right. Well, God, it can't be as simple as the title alludes to. Where but okay. So my gut would first say that it's like maybe it's some sort of a zombie film. But what I think it's going to be is I think it's going to be an area where people are starving. However, some crazy group of scientists or some kind of think tank comes up with a plan to try and end the hunger, but instead, what the food source that they provide is what turns people into zombies.
Ooh, that is a terrible guess. That is not correct. Okay.
But that would make a decent movie,
That
right?
would make a decent movie.
Although I think it's kind of the plot to Exit Zero Zombie. But I started reading that, and I think that may have seeped into my head. So sorry, Neil Cohen. I did not mean to steal your idea.
All right, so here's the real story. 2 years after a high school prank that nearly killed popular teacher Mr. Balzac during the school's annual famine, the graduating class... I don't know what an annual famine is.
Yeah.
The graduating class of Sloppy Secondary tried to forget the incident and decided to hold a 24-hour famine in hopes of making it an annual event again. It isn't long before students and staff start turning up dead at the hands of a killer masquerading as the school's mascot. Is Balzac back for revenge?
What?
So
Why is
this trailer is it's very indie, let me say, and it is this cartoony mascot. It kind of reminded me of Happy Death Day for some reason, killing people in a high school. So yeah, I thought it was a perfect guess for you because you would never get it. So yeah. Next up, Ever After, and this is not to be confused with the Drew Barrymore Cinderella story.
I know. I was gonna say, is this a Drew Barrymore vehicle? That's a weird space for this.
We're mentioning Drew Barrymore an awful lot in this episode.
Yeah, that's like two of them. Maybe we could mention her some Barrymore. But oh boy, that was.
If we do her name 3 times,
out.
does she appear like Beetlejuice?
We could only hope. I think she'd be delightful to talk to.
Delightful.
Well, and it's funny because we have a similar thing in my family. We can't mention her name, because if we do mention her, my dad tells a story about when he met her out in California, when he walked by the street and she waved at him. No matter how many times we've all heard it, if you mention Drew Barrymore, he goes, "Did I ever tell you the time I met Drew Barrymore?" So yeah, we kind of have something similar in my family of that. So it's amazed I was somehow was able to mention her a couple of times, and I'm not like automatically on this Drew Barrymore lockdown. Because she's always been my favorite forever, so it's like, yeah. So.
Yeah, and if she came on the show, we could talk about Wilmington, because she was here when she was a kid. Because she did Cat's Eye, she did Firestarter.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Maybe that should be what we'll target for next year.
Yeah.
We've got to try and get and we've been so lucky. I feel like we've already hit such a plateau of interviews. We've had such great people on. I mean, Kelly Maroney, Felissa Rose, David Howard Thornton. I don't like. I'm like. How I kind of want I got the thirst for some more big name people.
Interview,
there.
Yeah. We can't lose Drew Barrymore's Skype interview though. That'd be bad.
Oh my God! I literally think on that day, if we got her, not only we would record it in Skype, but I think I'd have like an old-fashioned tape recorder, just like the oldest form of technology, but basic technology, along with it, just in case.
All right. So anyway, back to Ever After.
Yes.
2018, Juno Films. It has been 2 years since a zombie virus epidemic infected all but 2 German cities. Vivi and Eva flee the struggling community in Weimar. Ken is going to kill me for that pronunciation. For the one other safe haven, Gina.
Well, is it Weimar or Weimar? Because
I have no idea.
Because I've seen Weimer and Weimer spelled that way, so God knows.
You say Weimer, I say Weimer. I don't know. Ken beats me up on everything. I took 3 years of German.
Yeah.
And I still pronounce everything wrong. So
Well, at least you said knoppers correctly.
Yeah, or licorice.
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 But yeah.
So yeah, I watched the trailer for this one. It's it also looks very indie, but it also has a little bit of an intriguing vibe if it wasn't about zombies, which I'm tired of, so I'm not watching it.
Well, you say that now, and we've said that before, but wait till you see our next film we're doing for our season finale. You will not. It will invigorate your love of a zombie genre. Okay, because I thought it was awesome. But.
I'm gonna go back to my pick of the week before we unveil Brian's, and that is the Universal Horror Collection Volume 3, which I've got every one of these on my wish list. This is from 1941. I don't know if all these movies were from 41. That was the date listed. Of course, this is from Universal, and it includes 4 movies. If you recall when we talked about these previously, these are not your typical Mummy, Dracula, Wolfman. These are your Universal horror films that maybe got a little less known. They're not basically the big monster movies, but they are horror, which is why I'm very interested in them, because I haven't seen a lot of these. We have Tower of London. This one has a 2K remaster from a fine-grained print, a new audio commentary with our good buddy Steve Haberman, and still gallery. Yeah, just because your name is listed on our podcast multiple times, you become our friend.
Yeah. I like this, how this one, like, this set has, like, every film historian, like, ever made. And
yeah. This is like, who's who of film historians.
Yeah, really.
Man-Made Monster. This has a new audio commentary with author film historian Tom Weaver and filmmaker film historian Konstantin Nazer. And a still gallery. The Black Cat, which I have actually seen The Black Cat. This one, I believe, is we watched back in our Poe days in high school. New audio commentary with author film historian Gary D. Rhodes, a theatrical trailer, and a still gallery. And last but not least, Horror Island, with a new audio commentary by filmmaker film historian Ted Newsom, a theatrical trailer, and a still gallery. So, do you
think they're going to make a mashup of The Black Cat 09 Tales?
Oh, God. I still got to watch that, by the way. It's actually,
Did it ever come out?
Well, it's streaming now. You can
I know.
I don't know if it ever came out. Yeah. Who knows?
Still to this day, it may never have come out. It's been our longest ever running.
That's our longest running joke.
Yeah.
And then finally, Brian's pick of the week, and this would definitely be a shared pick of the week for me. Silver Bullet Collector's Edition, 1985, Shout Factory. Again, one of my favorite werewolf movies, just because I was probably one of the first werewolf movies I ever saw growing up as a kid. A werewolf terrorizes a small city where lives the paralytic Marty Koslaw, Koslaw, I don't remember how they pronounce it, his uncle and his sister, the story's narrator. And this is, of course, based off the Stephen King book Cycle of the Werewolf, which I used to read religiously. Some great features, as you would expect from any Shout Factory Collector's Edition. You have a new audio commentary with producer Martha De Laurentiis, new Cutting to the Bone interview with editor Daniel Lowenthal, A Little Private Justice, an interview with actor Kent Broadhurst, The Wolf Within, an interview with actor Everett McGill, Full Moon Fever, The Effects of Silver Bullet, an interview with special effects artists Matthew Mungle and Michael McCracken, audio commentary with director Daniel Atlas, isolated score selections, and audio interview with composer Jay Chataway, theatrical trailer, TV spot, radio spot, and still gallery. And we will be doing this movie on an upcoming episode of Silver Bullet.
That's the one we're going to have with Adam and Andrew from Theme Park Families are going to come on.
Yeah, for sure.
And this movie could have been used as your damn fine cup of coffee achievement if you hadn't seen it. Because, of course, Everett McGill starred as in Twin Peaks. As Big Ed Hurley. So, this one's one of my favorites. I have to say overall, like the book, this was one of my first real examples of where I read a book and then saw a movie based on it. In that order, a lot of times I'd see the movie and then read the book.
Yeah.
This was one of my, I think, if not the first time I've seen it, the opposite. And I remember I was definitely disappointed in terms of how good the book was versus the movie, but I ended up liking the movie over, like, as it went on, I separated it and loved the movie just for the movie's sake.
Yeah, it's one of those that, exactly. It's from that era of Stephen King adaptations, which I would not rank it up there as one of the great adaptations of his work, because there are much better ones out there. But on its own, kind of as a nostalgic werewolf movie, I think that's where it works for a lot of people who grew up with it.
Right, and I, like you, I must have, it was there's a handful, I wasn't a big reader, but there were some books that I loved that I would just reread, and that was one I must have read like 20 times, I think.
And I believe that was like a novella, so it was fairly short.
Yeah, it was short, and it had the amazing illustrations that led to every chapter, and I remember it had that one where the guy's face was getting ripped off.
Yeah.
It was so cool.
That was cool.
I like that, yeah.
So let's get to our main feature. This is Christmas Evil, a.k.a. Better Watch Out, which, if you watch it on Shudder, you'll see the actual original title, Better Watch Out, as the title screen.
Which I'm glad they changed it, because there was a later movie, Better Watch Out, that came out.
This one came out in 1980, directed by Louis Jackson, starring Brandon Maggart as Harry Stadling, which I read as Fiona Apple's father.
Really?
Can you verify that? Yeah, we went to verify that, but somebody mentioned that.
Was she the apple of his eye?
Apparently.
That was terrible.
Oh, that reminds me of a joke some guy I knew in high school. We were talking about the fruit of my loins. You know the saying, the fruit of my loins?
Oh, yeah.
He's like, yeah, the fruit of my loins. And somebody said the apple of my thigh.
Oh, I like that. You know, I almost said that, but I couldn't fit it to make this joke for this. So,
all right. Yeah. So, Jeffrey DeMunn as Philip Stadling, Diane Hull as Jackie Stadling, Andy Fenwick as Dennis Stadling, Brian Neville as Mark Stadling, Joe Jamrog as Frank Stoller. By the way, the guy that made that joke looked exactly like Jesus, even in high school. Yeah, he had the long hair and the beard and the goatee, and we used to call him Jesus too.
That's Jesus too. I love that.
Oh, all right. So, synopsis: a toy factory worker, mentally scarred as a child upon learning Santa Claus is not real, suffers a nervous breakdown after being belittled at work and embarks on a Yuletide killing spree.
So I have to say, I'll first say, based on that synopsis, don't give that synopsis too much credence. And I mean this, not that it's not basically accurate, but it makes it seem like it's going to be just like a Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Yes.
But it's not like that at all, actually. Completely different. But I could see why people would compare it to that. But it's actually much, when we watched this, it was much different than I thought. I expected it to be like a typical slasher where he just snaps and he goes off from house to house killing people. That's not at all what this is.
No, this movie really surprised me.
Yeah, I mean, and I have to say, so first off, as I was watching it, like it started off, I was found myself chuckling, and then I found myself feeling like eerily, like gross and creeped out at some sequences. And then once I got past that, and we'll get into more detail why, but then when it got out, as the movie really got swinging, it like just got hold of me, and I was like, wow, this is actually, now I see, because it's I think it's a pretty big cult classic, if I'm not mistaken, and I was like, why do people why is this like a kind of like a big thing? But once you see the movie as a whole, you kind of see it, because it's actually like, first of all, we'll say this: Brandon Maggart was amazing.
Yes.
He was fantastic at this role, and he's still alive. Actually,
Oh, really?
Yeah, I looked. I think he was born. He's old, but he's alive. But yeah, he was just so good, because this was a very odd, more complex character than I thought when you hear the plot that he had to play, and I think he nailed it. He did a great job. You actually, as creepy as like moments where you're like, what is with this guy? You actually, there were points where you felt like, at least I did, I felt pity, because I felt like, you know what, deep down he's a good guy that just really needs some help.
Yeah, this is a descent into mental illness movie.
Yeah.
It is not really a slasher film at all. And I did verify he is Fiona Apple's father.
Check that out.
So, go figure.
Did you do you notice similarities? I mean, like right down to the core? Or,
yeah, I guess. Oh, so yeah, but I saw this movie compared to Taxi Driver.
Oh, yes. Now, that's a much better comparison than to Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Yes, and I was like, oh my God, they're exactly right. This is a horror version of Taxi Driver. Not that Taxi Driver isn't a little bit horrific in
right.
itself.
Oh, yeah. No, there's definitely a horror element to the Taxi Driver,
but
yes.
When I got through watching this movie, all I could think of, 1980 is early, and it follows this pattern of, when we think about the early 80s slasher genre booming and coming alive, and you think about, oh, well, that's when Halloween's in 78, and then all these other movies just started copying it, and Friday the 13th, and blah, 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 blah. But you don't think there was a lot of movies, and we've run across some of them on this podcast, that went in such a different direction, and were really kind of ingenious and way ahead of their time. And this is one of those. Like, the minute I got through watching this movie, I was like, oh my God, this is one of those movies from the early 80s that was so far ahead of its time.
Right.
And did something so different, and it kind of got lost in the shuffle of all the slashers and the big mascots and the Freddys and the Jasons. But this one deserves another look, man. This one was really, really disturbing on a level that your typical slasher wouldn't be. Because it does deal with it. It's about mental illness and the slide into mental illness, and you're watching this guy pretty much fall apart in front of your eyes.
Yeah, and he's so good. I mean, I can't, like, the fact that he was not a bigger. I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, he may have done some other things, I guess, that maybe that I just don't know his career.
I mean, he wasn't Dressed to Kill.
Oh, that's right, yeah, which is another one of my favorites. That's another one we need to do on this podcast, because I love that movie. That was one of my favorite horror movies growing up.
Yeah, that's one we definitely need to do.
Yeah.
And that was one that they covered on, I believe they covered that on Chips, Tips, and Dorks back when that podcast was around. I always wanted to revisit it, even after hearing that episode.
Yeah, and that movie, like I used to, actually, scare me a little bit as a kid, just the way he, the blonde woman, so to speak.
He did a lot of TV. Basically,
right. I think that's what. Yeah, it seems like. But I mean, the fact, I mean, you never hear this mentioned when they compare movies about mental illness, that this is not listed there. It's because I think you're right. It probably literally got lost, was the best way to say it. It got lost in a sea of slashers, and that's an unfair spot for it to have been thrown into.
Yeah, it looks like
it's not really a slasher.
No, then there's obviously some kills, but when you're watching Harry Stadling, the character, as you watch him slide, he's going after people that have wronged him in some way, and in some level, kind of deserve it in a way. I'm not saying anybody deserves to get murdered, obviously,
right.
But from the perspective of us as the viewer, we're given clues and showed why these are not innocents that he's targeting, and that makes him kind of a bit more sympathetic character.
Yeah, because it's like there's this element to him in different sequences of him, just literally wants to basically provide everybody with the Christmas feeling that he's lost, and which is always a nice thing. So he's almost like this Robin Hood character. And I mean, then one sequence is like a literal Robin Hood.
Yeah.
He steals from his own toy company to pass out the toys to a less fortunate thing. And if almost everything he does has a motive of that to it. At some, all the main stuff he does is, and it's like he's like anyone that's kind of disparaging the feeling what he believes Christmas should be is that, but it's like anything, when you get too obsessed with something, no matter how good or bad it is, it's never going to end well.
Yeah, and I want to jump down to one of the trivia tidbits from IMDb, because it ties right into that. And it says, though it was the success of Halloween that ultimately allowed this film to be made, it was actually written earlier. Accordingly, Lewis Jackson does not consider this film to be a slasher film, but rather a film that has more in common with Frankenstein. You could definitely see that
too, yeah.
Because he is a misunderstood monster, basically.
Yeah.
In this movie. And we as the viewer understand it to a point, but the people around him do not. And it's very tragic story arc, actually. And that's another thing I kind of like about it, because I've always loved, my favorite Christmas songs are the ones that have a tinge of sadness to it. Because I think Christmas is a time of great joy, but I think it's also it's like better even if it's tinged with a little bit of melancholy. And Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas is my favorite Christmas song of all time. Period. Point blank. And if you watch the original scene when Judy Garland sings that, it is not a happy scene. I mean, there's a little girl crying. It's a very sad song because it's been, if you don't know, you got to go read the origins of that song. It's pretty crazy. But on the surface, the lyrics sound like, oh, have yourself a merry little Christmas, have a great time. But it's really about, basically, this might be your last Christmas, so you better enjoy it while you can before we move to St. Louis or whatever that was.
Well, I mean, at some level, that should be the way you just look at anything. They always say, that old saying, oh, live every day like it'd be your last. So it's like, you don't know when, or even if it's not a permanent thing, but how many times do you know? Like, I mean, I know it like now that I was thinking this year, so now that my brothers have moved to various places, one lives in California, one lives in Seattle. This year we're all home at my parents for the holidays, and look at just Julie, Julie's situation where, her family is Colorado, some in California. So it's like, so it's, you have to almost look at every time you can get the whole family together as special like that. And while it's a happy occasion, there's a tinge of sadness because, well, when's the next time this may happen? It might not happen next year or the year after. It may not be a few years until then.
Yeah.
So I get that. I know exactly what you mean by
I
that.
thought about it too with us looking for a new house.
Right.
There's a very real possibility this may be the last Christmas in our house. This house could be. We may not be in this house next Christmas. And you think about, you're excited to move and everything. Don't get me wrong, but you raised your kids in this house. You got married in this house. It's like there's a lot of memories here, and to think that's your last Christmas here, it does have a very strong twinge of melancholy to it. Even though it's going to be replaced with something very happy and exciting. Oh, Christmas in a new house, that's going to be awesome. But you still have those thoughts. And this movie kind of had that because you have all the great Christmas trappings, the lights and the presents and the Santa Claus and all that stuff, but there's this really dark undercurrent running throughout the whole movie.
Right, yeah, and it's funny because this movie starts off and it's like it kind of almost like sucks you in like the most unexpected way. I mean, first it starts off and it looks like super like almost like, dare I say, cheesy with weird things. Like, as I put down, there's this weird opening where he's doing these weird morning calisthenics, and I love that movie calisthenics are always like three, like what do you call those things? You touch your toes. It's like 3 touch your toes, a couple of like maybe like a jumping jack or two, and that's it.
Yeah, you're good.
And you're good to go. And it's that's how exercise works in movies. It's great, and this is no exception. But so then I'm like, okay, this character's deranged, and I thought like they were gonna show him deranged right from the start.
Yeah.
Because there's this really creepy sequence where, and you find out later that it really comes from like that it's just almost like a loneliness or a good place where he's literally like watching these kids through binoculars, and at first you're like, oh, okay, he's checking the kid, but then the sequence with the little girl where he's just looking at her sitting there and he's lingering on it, and I'm like, oh, please don't make him like a pedophile or something like wrong like that. Yeah. But he just like he looks at her as the pure, like almost like a representation of pure Christmas, of pure goodness. Yeah. Because it just turns out it's a sweet little girl that just is a really good kid, and and then he finds that one bad kid that just wants penthouses, and then I'm like, okay, it's back to kind of silly again, but yeah, and the movie itself is actually filled with odd calisthenics. If you notice, there's a couple of sequences where they're just random things like that, but yeah, and it just. So, you get a little bit about him, and, it's somehow he's still been career-wise successful. Like, he's moved off the line, like a factory line, which, really I don't think those exist anymore at all, right? I mean, everything's automated now.
About, yeah.
And so he moved off the factory line into some kind of supervisory position, I guess.
Yeah, I couldn't like quite catch what it was, but yeah.
Right, and of course there's some animosity towards him from his old comrades there, I guess, and they're mean to him because he's he's some sort of a little sad sack of a guy.
He
no
does.
pun
That's
intended.
a great word. He plays the sad sack.
Yeah,
well.
it's like. We should mention too, it wasn't our first shot, but of course, Kurt Russell's The Sack is Back, because Santa Chronicles 2 has been officially announced, so that's exciting.
Oh, yeah.
But and it was announced on Bloody Disgusting. Combe pointed it out. They think it's hilarious. It was like, did they listen to Civil War? Did they know that movie means something to us? So he is. He's like this sad sack, and and he. Basically what sets up with, and it's actually a long payoff. I thought this guy would kind of get his retribution on that guy sooner than it did, but a guy kind of makes up this reason that he's leaving early the next day for Thanksgiving. And it's funny, unlike other holidays, like this thing starts at like before Thanksgiving actually.
Yeah.
So you get, I guess maybe that was intentional to see the, because I don't know how believable it would be the more slow decline. I think it's more effective that it was a slower decline into his madness. But yeah, so he gets, it happens before Thanksgiving, and the guy basically, he finds out later on that the guy lied to him and basically just tricked him into working his shift back on the factory floor. And, and it almost seemed like the guy did it for, one, to get out of work, but two, also to kind of like stick it to him.
Yeah.
Like, better than us, no matter what position you have up there,
Yeah.
But
the other thing I liked about this movie is any movie set in this, or that was made in the 70s that features Christmas, same way with Black Christmas, it has those weird decorations and the big lights and all that kind of stuff. And it has this creepy vibe to me. And I was trying to figure out, I was like, why is that? Is it because it's just old? Or is it because I'm associating it with Black Christmas?
Yeah,
Maybe.
You wonder.
I'm almost like, is it a chicken and egg thing? Like, is it because I saw Black Christmas, I think this is creepy? Or was it creepy before I saw Black Christmas? I don't know.
Right, yeah, you don't know. I mean, you know what, actually, and it's funny you said that, because one of the things that gave me the creepiest vibe was the factory setting itself. Just where it had that, what was it, like Jolly, what was the toy company, whatever, and it just had those, but it had the giant, like, light, like the logo of the company, like, on the thing, and it looked like it was a giant decoration. And I'm just like, what? It's like you're right. Like, what is the creep factor? Like, was it before or after? Like, what came first, the chicken or the egg?
I don't know, but I think I've always thought of vintage decorations as being a little creepy, not just for Halloween, but I remember there's Olivia's mom had a Santa Claus, very old. It belonged to her mom's mom, to her grandmother. So this thing is probably, it's probably 60, 70 years old, Santa Claus. Like, it's almost like a stuffed Santa, but it's got like a plastic doll face. And it just has that look to it. And I've always thought that was the creepiest freaking thing I've ever seen in my life. But it's, it's from that old era where stuff looked like that. Now, I'm sure it wasn't creepy back then. People wouldn't buy the things. But to our standards, our modern eyes, that stuff just looks kind of weird and creepy. I don't know. So,
yeah, well, it's like our like, the tree that we have in my dad's house, it's like, I mean, he tells us every year, again, it's like his Drew Barrymore story, but it is something kind of cool. So his, obviously growing up Jewish, my family, it was funny though, my dad gets so into Christmas, and both my dad and mom, when they remarried, remarried people who were Catholic. So Christmas was able to come into our lives.
Yeah.
And so I remember one year, one of the first earliest memories with my dad and my stepmom was that I guess I was there for Christmas. It might have been Christmas break, but it was early before the tree, and they had this little, because it was an apartment in New York City, so those are not big. And so we had, I guess my stepmom had decided, we're going to make decorations. So we made these ones where they were like, she had sewed some together, and the one we made these like bells, which was literally a styrofoam cup with tinfoil on it. We put a little bell in it. And we always make sure to include like a handful of those ornaments from that year on the tree. They're usually kind of in the back towards the bottom because, we
Yeah.
want to, they definitely have had shown better days. But it's kind of fun to see those because what they do is my dad always tries to make sure that there's like an ornament from every year since they've been together on the tree somewhere. And so it's like, yeah, so I mean, you could spend hours looking at that tree, and I always do when we get there and it's set up and I'm looking around and I'm like, oh, okay, I remember this, or I remember when I bought that one. So the tree kind of tells its story. So, but I still know what you mean when you look, and so my point is, I know it's kind of a runaround to get to it, but the point was that like, when you look at those old ornaments compared to like some of the newer, nicer, fancy ornaments, I'm like, wow, these, they're really like rusticy, like kind of looking things, and some of them are like falling apart, but yet, if they didn't have the sentimental value to it, I'd be like, what the hell are these on the tree for? It's like, why these creepy things on the tree? But yeah, so it's kind of funny, but yeah, so I know exactly what you mean, but
yeah. So let's get to some of the trivia. I don't know. Should we talk about the ending, Brian? Because it's a phenomenal ending.
Yeah, and it's definitely one of those ones that open to interpretation. It's kind of like Grease, the ending of Grease.
Yeah,
but,
I don't know how much spoiler we should get into for like a 40-year-old movie. But
you know what? I think we make the rule like if it's over 20 years, you're out of luck.
Yeah, so if you don't want to hear the very ending of this, you could just skip past this. But yeah, the ending sequence, Harry what's the character's name that he confronts? But they get in a fight, and Harry, we presume, is killed. Right. But we kind of don't know for sure, really, because he's basically strangled. So we don't know if he's really dead or not.
Oh, that's his brother. Yeah, that was his brother.
Yes.
The one that strangled him, so to speak.
So when his brother like drags him out in the ending sequence, he drags him out to his van, or to Harry's van, and puts him in the driver's seat.
Right.
And we think, is he dead? Is he just passed out? We don't really know. And then Harry wakes up. He punches his brother in the face. Yeah. And he takes off. And as he's taking off, he runs into a mob of basically pitchfork-wielding mob. Just out of Frankenstein. I mean,
which is, I was going to say, there's your Frankenstein comparison to, like smack in the face.
Yeah,
I mean,
right out of Frankenstein. He swerves to avoid them. And drives off, I guess it was a bridge. He drives off this bridge or embankment or whatever. And the van keeps driving. And it basically keeps flying into the moon. And
like a sleigh.
Because there's a sleigh.
Because he is dressed as Santa Claus by this point for like the second half of the movie.
The van has a big sleigh painted on the side of it. And you hear the narration, and I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. And he basically flies into the moon. And so how do you interpret that? I mean, did he literally fly into the moon? Or
no, I think he flew off and he was dead. But his last image into his own head was because I think, remember, it is a slow descent into madness and there's a sequence where they try and like almost have you see things through his perspective anyway.
Yeah.
I think it's just a very symbolic thing, and I think it was an excellent choice because I think like at this point, you're along for the ride, so to speak, no pun intended, of this movie. And I think it's kind of like, I think what happened is he didn't die when his brother strangled him. He drove off because the mob was kind of after them before. Remember, they were kind of already looking for him. So that's the only reason why I think that happened up to that point. When he just drove off, I think obviously his van probably crashed at the bottom into flames. But in his head, to probably, I remember he like literally had taken the persona of Santa Claus at that point. And so he was, in his head, he was flying off when he was really going
and that
downward.
Was my interpretation as well. I think it was great.
And I'll tell you there was 2 points I want to make that like 2 things with him in it. One of the things that I think was so good about his portrayal too was there were 2 sequences specifically. One was when he was literally standing outside and just kind of practicing and perfecting his Santa Claus laugh, which I kind of interpreted as him literally going from reality into his world of fantasy. Because if you notice, he started off sounding, "Oh, Merry Christmas," and sounding really silly.
Yeah.
And then it became this like exactly how you would picture if Santa Claus was real, what he'd sound like. This ho ho Merry, this bellowing perfection of a Santa Claus representation.
And if you were seeing as an outside observer watching him, he would still sound silly. But now in his mind, he's become.
But
the
in his
perfect
mind,
Santa.
he said, and he goes in there. That one part was great. And then there was another sequence where I felt like when he stumbled into that party accidentally, and they thought he was there intentionally to to bring cheer, and he got so caught up in the because they literally everyone was calling him Santa, and the kids were loving it, and they were dancing around, and he was dancing and prancing, and I was like, I feel so bad for him because look at what all he needed was the acceptance, and it's and you heard that story a million times. So many people, they go into madness due to this loneliness or lack of acceptance, and this film portrayed that great, and that you almost felt like I was happy and sad for him at the same time, because I was happy that he seemed like he was he got what he wanted, even though you knew it was going to be a brief moment and it wasn't realistic. It wasn't him that they liked; it was what he was portraying that they liked.
Yeah.
So,
I'm gonna go through just a couple of these trivias real quick. This one was funny. Director Lewis Jackson came up with the basic idea for this film after smoking marijuana one night during the 1970s and seeing a vision of Santa Claus holding a knife. So you can thank pot for this movie.
Yeah, and what's funny is it's kind of funny. You're like, I could see that for this movie, but there obviously was a great premise to make this movie with there was a lot of substance to this, so it was good. By the way, did you notice though? I put that in there that in the other part that the Ernie Saves Christmas guy was in there.
Yeah.
Robert Leslie, the one that goes, Mr. Santos. Yeah. The agent, that guy, he was in there.
So we have our annual, our every episode we're going to talk about Ernest Saves Christmas somehow.
Yes, and thanks to Cody for sending that great little mashup meme she did, where it was that famous, change my mind thing, and she put the Civil Gore logo on on the person's head.
Yeah, that was
awesome. So thank you, Cody, again.
Favorite film of John Waters, his favorite Thanksgiving or Christmas themed film. So again, goes back to the cult classic status of this movie. This one I found interesting. The character of reporter Ricardo Balma was done as a caricature of Geraldo Rivera, who at the time this film was made had yet to become a national celebrity and was mainly just known by people on the East Coast.
Yes, because I knew him. He used to be, when I saw him on the news all the time. I reckon I knew that reference right away. I mean, because I grew up with him on the news, before he was Geraldo Rivera that everybody knows. It was local. And it was funny, there was also a guy we had in the local news, Roberto Torrado. So it was Ricardo Rivera, Roberto Torrado, and they always seemed the same to me. It was that Dermot Mulroney, Dylan McDermott kind of Saturday Night Live sketch thing going on there. But
this last one I thought will shed some light on the ending that Brian and I were just talking about. It says, while many people think Harry does in fact fly off at the end, he actually just drives off the bridge and kills himself. An explosion is heard, but people mistake it for the sound effects of Harry's brother rolling down the hill into boxes. So there is a clue that he does actually kill himself.
Yes. I mean, I think anyone watching the movie knows that
he
it's
didn't
not
physically fly into space. Just like at the end of Grease, I don't believe Olivia Newton-John actually drove the car into the sky.
No, and you've heard that whole thing, right? Where there's that dark theory of Grease that she had died while drowning, and the whole movie is her last mind as she's losing her oxygen in the hospital room.
Oh my God,
slowly dying. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those black holes you get sent into on Zergnet.
Oh my,
where it's movies that are interpreted incorrectly. And
speaking of Grease, did you see that? So Olivia Newton-John put her Grease jacket, the black leather one from the end of the movie, up for auction for a cancer charity.
Oh, that's great.
So she put the jacket up for auction for this cancer charity. A fan bought the jacket at auction for over $250,000 and gave it back to her.
That's awesome.
How cool is that? Yeah.
See, that's why I always wish that I people you hear say wish money, and not that if I didn't have millions of dollars, I wouldn't spoil myself and family and friends, but I would love to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
To me, that would be the best thing, like that I could just buy something for an auction, but then give it right back to the person and say, here, that's not what this is about,
Yeah.
Yes, it's cool that you did that,
yeah.
but what a good good. I hope for them that they get something really good this year for them.
Yeah.
I hope
you're on the nice list for sure.
Yeah. Oh, and that was the creepy thing too, with that whole scene that literally he had this. He must have special ordered it because it was like this really fancy embossed book that said naughty boys and girls and good boys and girls that he wrote into like he was Santa Claus. And now that I come think about that, I'm wondering if that was probably one of those old composition notebooks, but he looked at it that way, and that was just an early sign of madness that, as the audience, you were not tipped off on yet. Like maybe it was literally like some cheap $1 notebook, but yet in his head it was this big volume of.
I mean, it makes me want to watch the movie
book.
again. Like I think you could get a lot out of a second viewing or a third viewing.
Oh yeah, and you know what? Now when I first started this, I'm like, all right, well, I'll just get through this for the podcast and then I'm done. But after I saw it, I'm like, you know what? I think this could be something I'd watch repeatedly and watch this in, as my holiday rotation. If not only, at bare minimum for Brandon Maggart's performance.
Yeah.
Look, I can't even and if you look at some of the IMDb trivia I didn't put on there was one where there was a lot of big people that were up for this movie. Like that they were considered for the cast. Now, whether they said, I'm not doing some crazy Christmas movie slasher thing, or they just didn't get the role. But I was looking at it. It was I didn't put it on because, we had so many on there. But it was George DeZunda, he was in the commish.
Mm-hmm.
Was going to be, was up for Harry. Michael Beck, I think wasn't he the one for the Warriors and Xanadu? He was up for Philip, the brother. Glenn Close, JoBeth Williams.
Wow. Were
up for Philip's wife, which was not that big of a role, but it had some lines and some things in it. She was in there. And, so, there could have been some more well-known people in this movie, but I think it works better without people that other than the Ernest Saves Christmas guy, which was more than enough for us.
Yeah.
So,
I think so.
but I have to say, don't write this off and stick with this movie because I know you're going to turn it off, and you may want to turn it off after the first 10 minutes because you're like, oh, this is. And it looks like
it might end up being a comedy too, like a dark comedy.
But it's actually really, really well done, and probably one of the. I mean, maybe to us, maybe other people are like, "What are you talking about?" I've always raved about this movie, but at least to me, this is an unheralded classic.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
So
and it's on Shudder right now, so there's no excuse not to go watch it. So yeah,
I'm hoping. I wonder if Joe Bob is on his rate because
fantastic.
Remember when you're listening. By the time you're listening to this night, I'm gonna be. I don't know about you, Tim. I know I'm gonna be a little late to catching the Red Christmas Marathon, but this would be a fun one if he included this. I could see this being great thing because then he could be like candy cane foo, like driving off a cliff foo, But yeah, so I mean, because there's some foo in there. I mean, definitely some foo.
I would love to hear his insight to this movie though, because it's so deep.
Yeah, and I think he'd do an amazing job at with a bunch of facts
breaking
and
it
stuff
down.
like that.
Yeah, I would love this.
Yeah. And who would Darcy, though, cosplay as for this? Would it be Harry?
I have no idea. That's a good question.
That'd be interesting.
Not a lot of female roles in this one.
No, other than the wife, I guess. But and there is one thing I will warn people that don't like things like me. There is an eye sequence.
Yeah, there is an eye. All right, Brian. So what did you have for our beer pairing this week?
So I came up with it. Maybe it's a little generic, but I mean, when it comes to holiday movies, there's only so many holiday beers that can match with movies. I mean, at some point we may have to repeat just the way this is going. Although I am so excited for the pairing next week, which maybe I'm going to tease this as possibly one of the most perfect beer pairings.
Wow.
Ever in Civil Gore history for next week, but we'll let you marinate on that for a little bit and see. But so this one is Santa's Little Helper barrel-aged Imperial Stout. So I'm wondering if we did the original one, but this is a new version for this year, the barrel-aged Stout.
Could be, yeah.
Imperial Stout. And I think that this is a little bit stronger, which fits better with this movie. It's 12%. It's from Port Brewing Company in San Marcos, California. And here's the description. It's our bourbon barrel-aged version of Santa's Little Helper. This Imperial Stout begins the journey with flavors of sweet bourbon and oak, continues with hints of nutty, that's appropriate for this, dark chocolate and malt, and finishes with a smoky coffee finish. A perfect beer to leave for the jolly old fat man instead of milk and cookies.
Nice.
By the way, I have to say something. Speaking of beer, I give a shout out to Fox and the Foxhound, Kevin and Amanda's podcast. Kevin had one of the funniest lines that had me cracking up when they're doing Prisoner of Azkaban, and there was a topic of butterbeer, and Amanda was saying, she goes, I gotta, they were talking about how butterbeer, they couldn't tell if it was alcoholic or whatnot, or how good it tasted and how it sounded. Amanda's like, you know what, I'm gonna start I gotta look up a vegan butterbeer for you, Kev. Because it sounds good. And Kevin's like, I don't know about the whole butter beer thing, the sweetness. Can't you just make me beer? And I thought that is so classic, Kev. And it cracked me up. So, Kev, I hope you're listening, because that was awesome.
Yeah. Fantastic podcast, by the way.
Yes, definitely check that out.
Not just because it's my brother. It's a freaking fantastic podcast.
Yes, it is like as perfect as podcasts could be. It's right.
And they're doing
there
really well, by the way. They're doing very, very well.
Oh my God! Even if you do, I would dare to say. I mean, I happen to be a very big Harry Potter fan. If you're not, you will probably become one from
my
show.
mom listens to that podcast, and she doesn't listen to any podcast. If that tells you anything.
Even Civil Gore.
She does not listen to Civil Gore. No.
Yeah, it's funny. We can't get our own families to listen to Civil
Olivia,
Gore. How do we have anybody listening?
I don't know.
Really?
My own wife won't listen to Civil Gore.
I know. Julie's not heard one thing yet. I think it's because her roles keep getting cut. Every time we try and have her on, something happens. Well, I think we follow through with that one where we hand the mics over to Olivia and Julie for an episode.
All right, so our triple threat last week, we were looking for a fictional character. And the answer was Laurie Strode from the Halloween series. Clue number 1, my family dynamic changes in terms of offspring and siblings depending on the film series. Of course, she had a daughter in the original timeline, which was, of course, played by Danielle Harris in 4 and 5. She's had a son, John, in the H2O reboot. She has a daughter, Karen, in the new timeline. She has no children in the Rob Zombie reboot. And in terms of siblings, she has, of course, Michael Myers as her brother and sister Judith in the original timeline and Rob Zombie reboot, but has no siblings to speak of in the new timeline. So if that's confusing, what can I say? It's a crazy series. Clue number 2, I've been portrayed cinematically by technically 4 different people. So who are they? Well, of course, she was originally played by Jamie Lee Curtis in the originals and Scout Taylor Compton in the Rob Zombie remakes. But she was also technically played by Sydney and Mila Pister when she was known as Baby Boo in the Rob Zombie remakes.
Yeah, see, that was a tricky one.
That's super
But it's accurate.
It is accurate. That's super tricky, though. And then clue number 3, I was once killed on screen and off screen, but now I'm very much alive. Of course, Laurie's character was killed off screen somewhere between the events of Halloween 2 and 4 in the original timeline. And she died on screen in Halloween Resurrection in the H2O timeline. She is still alive in the new definitive timeline and technically in the Rob Zombie timeline as well.
Yeah. So yeah, this now the whole thing. And when I say definitive timeline, that's my choice, obviously, because some people may say they all exist in alternate universes, but I'm kind of going with this new version is probably considered technically the definitive timeline
since it has John Carpenter's blessing. I mean, I would have to say
right, and it's a direct sequel to the original one, and so yeah.
All right, so this is our triple threat this week. This one is a fairly easy one, guys. So you need.
I think this is a softball if there ever was one.
This is your Christmas present.
Yeah, even though next week's is probably going to be a little bit trickier, and that's closer to Christmas, but I don't care. I think Tim's nailed it. This one is your Christmas present.
All right, so we are looking for an actor or actress, so listen close. Clue number 1. I once starred in a film that contained a cast filled with a who's who in horror. Clue number 2. While I am famous for my facial expressions, it was another body part that made me legendary. Clue number 3. I turned down reprising my most famous role to further my education, yet returned eventually to reprise the role.
So yeah, I think anyone that any listeners to the show should know this one right away. I mean, there's one that's I think a total giveaway.
Yeah, you should be able to get this one.
And I've actually had this one sitting in our files to use, and I'm like, with like my, I was like, that was early. It was supposed to be way earlier on when we were trying to really start to do easy ones. And I'm like, oh my God, I never used this one. And you know what? I'm running out of time this week to prep for this episode. So here it is. But, I have to say, I don't think we got a guess for last week's by anybody.
Yeah, I think everybody's busy for the holidays too, though.
Yeah, or they're just tired of us and our stupid trivias. But no, I'm kidding. No, everyone likes this one. So but we didn't get that one.
Yeah.
So hopefully this one will be a lot more easier for everybody.
All right, Brian, so what is our Zabmondo question of the week?
All right, I'll do this one, though. This one's probably going to traumatize both of us severely. Would you rather, Tim, eat someone's tumor right after it's been extracted by surgery? Okay, right? Wait, if you think that's bad, here's the one that'll kill me. Or chew and swallow someone's eyeballs.
Oh, man, I would take the eyeball all day long. All day long.
I think I'd have to, yeah. Because usually, okay, here's the reason why. The tumor is being removed for a reason because it's not supposed to be there and it's not good. God knows what it is.
Eyeballs are a delicacy in some parts of the world. Not necessarily human eyeballs, but animal eyeballs.
Right. Well, it doesn't say human. It's just someone's. Someone's could be an animal.
Yeah.
Really. So, and I'll give you the factoids that it gets. So I think we're both in agreement on that one, and probably shouldn't go into much more before we have everyone vomiting. Yeah. But I'll give you the factoids that they have on this. It says, it pays to know your tumors before deciding. For example, the largest tumor ever was an ovarian cyst weighing 328 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
I don't even know how this existed, because then it says, taken from a woman in Texas in 1905. She made a full recovery. How did you not know you gained 328 pounds that wasn't food-related?
You hear about that all the time. You really do.
You do. Yeah. I know. And then someone wrote, this is a quote by James Beard. Very famous quote, apparently. He says, I believe that if I ever had to protect... Oh, I'm sorry. I believe if I ever had to practice cannibalism, I might manage if there were enough tarragon around.
Okay.
That's awesome, actually.
Yeah.
That's a great quote. I think I'm going to start using that quote. Just when there's there's the time you're in conversations and family and there's like a lull at the table and everyone's eating.
You break that one out.
I am just going to whip that one out and just say it randomly. Even if there's no tarragon anywhere on the table.
All right, guys. Okay. Well, we will see you back here next week for our final movie before the break, Anna and the Apocalypse. I'm so excited about this one.
I cannot wait. I'm going to give you a spoiler, Tim. You're going to love it.
All right.
I can't wait till you watch this and I hear your reaction. I'm hoping I'm not wrong, because if I'm wrong, I think I might have to doubt a lot of things in my life if I get this prediction wrong.
All right. Well, we'll find out next week. All right, guys. So, get your Christmas shopping done. Happy holidays, and we will see you back here for one last episode before 2020 and the fourth season of Civil Gore.
Yes. And don't trick anybody into working your shift, because it never ends well.